Welcome to the Fellas Podcast, the ultimate Formula One podcast for fans by fans, where we discuss all the happenings in the world of Formula One. Now, let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Fellas, right? This week, we're going to talk about Zandvoort, Max Country, what happened there. However, before we jump into it, as usual, we ask that you like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Fellas, starting off with Ralph, what do you think about the race?
I liked it. I liked it. I didn't think there was a lot of craziness in this, or a lot of extras, it seemed. But I love the track. I love the layout of the track. It reminds me of like Monza or Brazil. It's an old school track, so I liked it. But I enjoyed the race. It was good.
What about you, Simon?
You guys might hate me for this, but I thought it was a little boring.
Yeah.
Compared to the weeks we had prior. I wanted some drama. I wanted some drama somewhere. Right. It could have been Leclerc and Russell for all I cared, but it just seemed like Max and Lando switched places, and now Lando's 20 seconds ahead of everyone else, and you're searching for drama. I mean, I do love the track, though. It's like a combination of an Indianapolis, Daytona track with all those high banks and high different elevations. But yeah, it was an okay race. But I guess I got spoiled from the 5 weeks prior where there was always drama in the race.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, I'd agree with you on with Simon. I can't believe I'm doing this, but yes, it was it seems a little boring to this one. Yes, based upon what we had right before the season, took the summer break. Yeah, this one was it was kind of lackluster on my, from my perspective, coming off of that high from what happened before. But the track, I enjoyed it, and what I noticed a lot on the track, it had a lot of undulations, meaning not even like the just changing, for height and all that stuff, but within the corners themselves, you could actually see how they change the camber of the road surface for each turn, right? So, each turn had a positive camber for it on the turn, but like when they did that short left, right, that for the chicane stuff, you actually saw from the camera that the car had to go over a hump to get back into the other camber of the side of the road. So, it was all right, but aside from that, yes, let's chip in. What about McLaren and their performance? Right, we'll kick it off with Simon again. What's up? What do you think?
they look strong, man. They really look like they came in prepared for the second half of the season. Lando and Piastri, more so Lando. I think Piastri had a little lackluster week compared to his prior weeks, and you can kind of tell from his voice and how he was interacting with the team. He didn't, he's always even keel, but I think he was not happy with fourth place. I think he wanted second or third. But Lando, McLaren, they just look strong. I truly believe Piastri probably would have given Verstappen a run for his money if there was more time and a little better strategy. But Lando was he just cleaned up today. He really showed Red Bull that, okay, we got 9 races left. Don't mess up. Don't mess up. You mess up once, I'm right on your tail. McLaren's looking strong, to answer your question.
Yeah, I agree. They are looking really strong. And what I noticed in the post-race press conference, all the teams, with the exception of McLaren, were surprised either with performance that they didn't feel they were going to have, and others where they were like, where did our performance go? So everybody else was shocked in some way. Ferrari was shocked, with the positive performance. And then you have Mercedes shocked with the lack of performance, but McLaren, they came out and were like, yeah, it was a good race. And, we're going to charge on. So I was surprised by that. I was like, okay.
Well, I said yes. I was surprised with McLaren, right, putting out, coming on the way they did. right?
You sound like he's struggling a little bit.
Oh yeah, he's struggling. He's struggling. He's struggling.
I think they're right there, bro.
Yeah. Like I said, lap 64, Lando is 17 seconds ahead of
so
Max.
Here we go. All right, if you want to go there,
to say about that?
All right, so here we go. McLaren made some strides, but the proof is going to be pudding at Monza.
The next race,
Monza,
right?
Yes,
the next race.
Yes,
Okay,
Monza.
We've been next racing for the last 5 races, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Next season.
Next season. McLaren's gonna win the world title, and he's gonna next season. We'll see.
Next season we're gonna prove something.
Yeah, well, no. But my line is what happens at Monza, because Monza is a high-speed track, right? And so we'll see what goes on there. I was impressed with what McLaren pulled out for this race, right? Even though Lando, they still hadn't figured out what caused off when they jumped off from the start, because he got left by Max, and it seemed that, from my perspective, that still these cars are still so air dependent that when they're caught behind another car, it is hard for them to overtake. And I think the FIA needs to do some work on that, really, because they claimed either they need to bring the guardrails in closer, right, with what these guys do, because the teams are looking for every loophole there is. Wait.
What do you mean guardrails?
So like bring the restrictions in more, right? Those are the rules of the guardrails, right? So you need to bring them in some more, so that we could get to that type of stuff, because I think even what is it, Oscar, right? Piastri, right? He when he got stuck behind got in a train with when he was trying to close back up.
Leclerc? Okay.
Yeah, he was trying to close back up. He couldn't really, close in there. And I think I saw, when I saw one of the interviews, he talked about the dirty air. So I think that's something I think the FIA needs to really kind of look into, right? Because the goal of this car was for it to be easier to have more passing on the track, right? And so, that's it. But I think they performed well, right? I think I agree with Simon again. I can't believe twice in one sitting. Piastri's not happy with his finish, right? Because he needs to be, he wanted to be up further, right? But he couldn't get out of that train in order for it to happen. And I think, the McLaren strategy overall in this race was relatively good, right? They had the first discussion there with Lando about tires. I'm not sure if that was just to try and, for psychological stuff for the other team, right? But, they were talking strategy. They broadcasted over the radio that they're talking strategy that, with the tires and when he's going to come into pit. But, so aside from that, I think it was good. I think McLaren has stepped up, right? And, Monza is going to be my proof in the pudding. They run Monza, they're it.
I want to just throw this in. I'm wondering with the way that I'm thinking it's going to be dicey at Monza as well, even though it's a completely different track than this one. But if Lando continues to perform like he is against Max, right?
Right.
My question is McLaren going to regret Hungary, where they made Lando give back first place to Oscar? Because that's 25 points, right?
Yeah.
That he would have had in his bank towards the world title, the drivers' championship. So I'm watching that to see, because when we were talking about it back then, and we were saying, the merits of, oh yes, he should have given it back, and I may have said that as well. I believe I did, from a team point of view, and like Ferrari back in the Michael Rubens days. That's why they were cutthroat. They were like, no. Whoever is the lead, every point matters. So you're second and you got to give it to him. You could lose a title by a point. So I'm just curious. I'm watching that to see if his performance keeps improving and outpacing Max, if that may cost him the world title.
If Lando is within 8 points of Max, they will regret it. Yeah. Right? Because he came in second place.
Yeah.
So he got 18 points versus 25.
Right.
I do not know if someone got the fastest time, so I don't know if it's between one of those two or not in that race.
Lando did it.
Right. So then, definitely 7 points. Yeah. If Lando is within 7 points of Max, they're going to regret it. They're definitely going to regret it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just curious.
And it's probably going to be something that they learn from going forward, and every team will learn from going forward. You got a team strategy, but the team strategy probably needs to be flexible if it's the first and second place leaders. You might not give it back, right? I think they regret it now, to be honest with you.
yeah, I'm starting to wonder that as well. Yeah.
So I just want to throw this out there. So remember, the team's major objective is to accumulate as much team points as possible, not necessarily providing the driver with a driver championship.
I have a caveat to that, but go ahead.
Right. So I hear you. I think if it comes close, I'm in agreement that they're going to regret doing that. But still, the team is just trying to maximize the amount of points they can get, much as possible. And the byproduct is, yes, if you're going to have a driver championship because you get the most points for when you win, right? So then it goes to the team, right? But still, I don't know if the team is really pushing. The drivers want to get the drivers championship. So so that's what I just wanted to throw that out there with you guys, that the team's objective is, yes, to maximize points as much as possible, and potentially drivers championship is a byproduct of that.
Go ahead, Simon.
Not their focus.
But it doesn't matter from that race because they came in first and second. So even if they swapped, they still got the maximum points.
Right. So the team was happy. The team was happy.
Right. So giving it to Lando would have been a bonus.
Right.
Well, for who? For Lando. Right. So, but that's the point I'm taking. The team don't care about who's first or second. They just want the points.
No. Here's the truth of it. The driver's title is like Monaco. Every year, everyone's, it's a track. Why we go there? They go, you can't pass. They can't remove it because it is a huge draw, right? Commercially, right? That race. So it's true. The team want the constructors because that's money in their bank to go and produce, next year to fund their the work they're doing. But the driver's title is worth more commercially to them. It has more prestige than the constructors. Ideally, they want both. They want the constructors and the driver's title. But there are times if they finish second and they got the drivers, they're happy because they can publicize the heck out of that and they're going to make money on it. You could check it out, but ideally they want them both, right? But there are times they would rather, if they come in second or even third, they don't want to be lower than that. Preferably second, and they won the driver's title, they're happy because that is what people really focus on. But the money wise on the constructors is for them. So that's why I say they wouldn't want to be fourth or fifth or whatever. If they finish second and win the drivers, they're happy. But ideally, they want both.
Interesting.
I wanted to just really quick say something to you, Ray, about what you stated about Monza. I don't know if you realize, but Leclerc was only 6 seconds behind Max Verstappen. He's not leaving the crowd anymore, right? Lando was the only one that was really getting ahead of everyone, right? Other than that, second through the 20th were relatively within 49 seconds or 50 seconds, I think it was. I think right now everyone's caught up. I don't think everyone's caught up enough to pass Verstappen on a straight, but they've caught up. Verstappen is not leaving anybody behind by 20 seconds anymore.
Right. Those days seem to be over. And we also have to comment that, remember, the FIA updated the rules because it was found that Red Bull had this inertia generated. They call it inertia generated T-valve. Basically, it was something that worked on the rear brakes of the car. So it gave it basically a brake steer. So the car would sense what corner it's going into and adjust the braking in the rear wheels to make it optimal for the car to get around the corner as fast as possible, right? The FIA updated the rules and they had to remove that from the car. And as it's speculated now that because they had to remove that from the car, they're having trouble trying to balance the car now because they don't have that system anymore. And that's why their pace has dropped, because now they're working to try to figure out how do we get the car balanced. And Max during the race was complaining that the car feels numb or dumb He has no grip. He can't drive it. He can't get any more out of it. So that is also the case that
you cheated.
No.
I'm just kidding.
No, I know, but just to say this, what they did is what they all did. It's like what Braun did when Braun GP was there, where they interpreted the rules. They did, and Toyota did, and they had that blown the double diffuser on their car, and the other teams missed it. They read the regulations and they interpreted it and made the car that way. And of course, the other teams were all up in arms when they started winning. But the FIA said they're not cheating. They didn't break the rules. They just interpreted it. There was a loophole and they capitalized on it. That's what Red Bull did. But the FIA updated the regulations, so they had to remove that from the car. And
that's what every race team does, right? Try to find the holes in it.
Right.
But yes, because I would want to say that the rear end of the Red Bull was reminding me of what Mercedes was suffering back earlier, with laying down the power out the corner, right? It took a lot more energy out of the tire, meaning it wore the tire down more, so or overheated the tire, so you didn't have enough grip. Because I remember watching Max come out of a corner, right, and you could see when he went to go for the power, right, that the tires weren't ready for it, and the car twitched on him, right? So and ideally, the fact that it twitched, you lost that forward momentum, right? So yeah, that basically it's like a torque vectoring stuff that they have on new cars. That's what they took out of it, right? Because they're using a brake to brake the inside wheel, on a right hand turn and a left hand, stuff like that. So yeah, that would make sense why now the back is a little bit more loose, and yeah, that would make sense then to figure out where you're going to adjust the car now to make it not as bad as it was, to compensate for the fact that it's not there. Right. That's so it's going to be hard for them to. It's going to take adjustment, and the drivers are going to change. Right. So the driving technique is going to have to change. That's what I meant to say. Right. Because that's no longer the aid for them. So
Right.
We'll see.
Right. So seeing that they have that work to do, and McLaren, like I said, those two drivers were the only two that were like, car is great. Like Ray would say, yeah, let's see what happens at Monza.
Yeah, Monza's my point. That's my line in the sand, right?
I think it's going to be more of what we saw today, but we'll see.
Well, and you know what? I'll be thankful for that, except for the Red Bull fans. But I think, I think some changes were there because that you could see it in the car. The car was a little more twitchy than normal, right? And as you said, I heard Max complaining over the radio. So yeah, he's going to have to reach down now, in his driving skill set and try and build something out of that toolbox to compensate for it. We'll see. I wanted to talk about, before we jumped on some more, for Mercedes. The penalty Lewis received, I think it was an FIA fault to levy that penalty. Because I don't know if you guys saw it, but they did even on F1 playback, right? Checo goaded Lewis into getting that penalty. Right, because when Lewis had nowhere else to go on that corner, right, other than the grass. Checo saw him coming, saw him there, and got out of the gas. So that by the time he got to the apex, Lewis was right next to it. But still, Lewis wasn't impeding. If he'd have carried the same momentum as well, I want to give credit. This was further validated by Julian Palmer on F1 to say if he'd have carried the momentum that he had initially, right, he would have cleared the apex before Lewis was there and been on his way. So, I think the FIA again, came out and fumbled and, penalized, Lewis that moved him off of the, from where he was, because he still didn't make it to the last set of qualifying. Right. So they just further hampered him in his effort. But, I was expecting a little bit more out of Mercedes. Right. I was kind of shocked that Russell, qualified high. Yeah. Because and then was able to use that to, the start to jump up. But it seemed like he didn't have the sticking power to stay there. I'll throw it over to you guys. We want to jump in.
So getting back to Lewis a little bit and the penalty. So I saw it. And initially I thought this is a 50-50 dilemma for FIA. I think they can go both ways, and I think they probably use precedent to try and make the call here. As far as Checo leaving off the gas, I probably would have did the same thing. I mean, you got split seconds to come up to a corner, and you don't know what the other person's doing.
Exactly.
The last thing you want to do is take both of yourselves out of the race completely.
Right.
You got a split second to make that decision. So, yeah, you know, we don't know what's in Checo's head. He could be baiting him. Who knows? But I know for me, I'm taking my foot off the gas until I figure out what the other person's doing.
True indeed.
And once I figure what they're doing, then I'm put my foot back on the gas. But
true indeed.
You got a half a second,
1
second, 2 seconds to make up that decision. I don't know. So I really thought it was 50-50. I just thought, well, you know, if they go back to precedent, he's gonna get the penalty.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they did.
That's what it seems like. That is exactly what they did. You know,
I don't agree with it, right? Because these guys agree. So check it out. I would be on board if these guys were coming from different series to race together, right? But they race together every weekend. And these guys already know all about the different drivers that they race around. There are nuances. They know, they know them, right? And at the same time, so I still think that he goaded them on it, because if you looked at it from his approach towards the corner, right? Lewis was already all the way on the outside of the corner. He wasn't in the middle of the road. He was all the way on the edge, on the outer edge of the corner, right? So I think he goaded him into trying. They tried a thing and they got it, right? They tried a thing and they got it. They, that's kind of where it is. They tried it and got it. But when you look at from the video of Lewis's car, look, the only other place further he could have won is in the grass, and none of them has done that yet. You know what I'm saying? And he was going slow. I think he got goaded by Red Bull, and FIA obliged him.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but here's the thing about it: they're not racing for pole. Sad to say, Checo's down the order. I know what you mean. So, but I don't think there was much gain, and I think drivers are inherently selfish. They have to be, right? So he's coming up on his lap, and he sees a car there, and he's gonna complain over the radio because you messed up my run because you're there.
Right.
But I agree with you. Lewis had nowhere to go, but they're gonna complain, for it. But I don't think there was much lost in that one. I mean, Checo complained, but it's okay. Yeah, I could see him complaining. You're right. Lewis had nowhere to go. The FIA could have been like, all right, he had nowhere to go. But I agree with Simon. I think it's precedent. They've done it, and they were just like, all right, we're going to just levy the penalty on him here.
I also think that this 2021 season, is it 2021 or 2020 that Lewis lost his 8th championship?
I think it was 2020.
Yeah. I think the black eye that Formula One got from that, they're going to use precedent from now on. They're not going to mysteriously come up with a new rule or change the rules or say that they're going to be flexible on this one. People are still talking about that, even at Car Week last week when I was at Car Week. And people are still angry about how they screwed over Lewis on that. And people who are not even Lewis fans.
They're right.
So they know it. They know they messed up and screwed up on that one. So, I think precedent is going to be the main. Yeah. Even if we feel deep down, based on video, that it can go either way. If it's 50-50 and it can go either way, they're going to go back and look at what they've done in the past.
Yep, and do it. Yeah, and it was 2021. Yes.
Yeah.
So they have. Well, I hear you on the precedent, but they already proved that they hadn't followed precedent, right? Because that they showed that happened with Lando and Max at Red Bull Ring, right? When they failed to call the penalty on Max. You guys remember that?
I remember.
Right?
I remember. Yeah, you're right.
So they don't follow precedent. I think, in my book, the FIA has it out for Lewis, and wherever they can, nix him, they nix him, right? Throw him down throw him back down in the field for him to try and come back out of it. As and what my Angelou says, still I rise. I hear what you guys say, but it's just
okay.
I would be listen. I would be on board with you if that to the left of Lewis, if there was like a runoff, right?
Yeah, there wasn't. Yeah.
Right. So then I said, okay, he could have taken a runoff because it made it's a tight corner, right? Yeah. But that was the track, right? So the only the places would go off and damage his car for this guy. And when you look at the video that F1 provided via Julian Palmer, I agree. If Checo knows Lewis because these guys race is as well as their wife. You know what I'm saying? Because Moses there with each other the whole time.
Right.
So if he'd have just proceeded on and go for the apex, he tried a thing and he got away with it. And my only drawback is that, that FIA wasn't smart enough to look at it and see it was a thing to try. The guy was already there on the edge of the apron, right? Going at a very slow rate of speed, applying some of their supposed technical knowledge to say, no, that's not a problem, right? That's my disappointment. That's and that's
Mercedes looked lazy anyway, man. They weren't in the game.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one. Simon, I think like something happened. Something happened to them over, either something happened with their pace, right? Because I was expecting more from them.
Well,
right?
Like I said, all the drivers, with the exception of McLaren, were shocked in either direction, and Mercedes was one of the ones shocked. Like, where did our pace go? They thought they were going to finish higher than they did.
Yeah, and those 3 weeks or 4 weeks they had to mull over the mistake they made with George Russell. You never know. There could be tensions within the garage, and Lewis said it himself after qualifying that the penalty from Checo was a domino effect on why he didn't qualify well. He did not prepare himself last go around to put himself in qualifying in the top 5 because of what happened with Checo. Now, he didn't necessarily state what that was psychological or something physical, or if something happened with the team, but I have a feeling it was psychological, or something happened, whether it was arguing with his team and why he didn't let me know what was going on behind me or whatever. We don't know what the issue is, but he's generally stated, yeah, that was a domino effect. I didn't qualify based on what happened there. So,
okay.
All right, so it's a psychological impact on him. Then basically, that's what you said.
Well, that's what I'm guessing, but don't quote me on it.
Okay, got you.
Regardless of my name.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I got you. So, what do you guys think about Ferrari's performance?
They were shocked that they did so well.
You think because it was a short track? Monza would tell me.
Yeah, Monza will tell us.
Yeah, of course, Monza's going to tell you, bro. That is the equalizer of equalizers.
Yeah.
But Leclerc did okay. I think he showed up, and I think he did okay. I think they're still not quite there yet. They're still, they still have some ways to go. But I think they, it's a good move in a direction. If they can keep the momentum up, I think they'll be back in the fight. And the same thing I'd say with Mercedes. If Mercedes is able to keep their momentum up and move, gain back some of that stuff that we lost before the break, right? That they dropped after the break here. I think then it's going to bring back the interest, right, into it again and bring the excitement back. So I'm hoping that Ferrari would be consistent, but you know how Ferrari is. They're here today, gone tomorrow. So.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that was my thought when I was listening to the post-race drivers. Red Bull. Okay, now Red Bull has a question mark on them, right, as far as performance, right? So they now are in the pack as well, because prior to the race, I thought it was okay. Red Bull's still up front. McLaren is right there behind them, and then I was like, okay, maybe Mercedes, and then Ferrari. Right. And we could see that it's murky with Mercedes and Ferrari as of this race. And from what they're saying, they don't know why. One doesn't know why they lost pace, and the other doesn't know why they gained pace. And these are top tier teams. So when I look at Ferrari, I still look at it like, for a team that has been so dominant, they're so lost. They seem lost. Like, I'm wondering what's going on with their technical side, that they just seem to be so lost with setting up the car or being consistent to getting it done. And I wonder how that's going to be next year when Lewis gets there. I wonder, but that's Ferrari. And then Mercedes, of the two, I think I have more confidence in that they will sort it out faster. But Ferrari, for the past few seasons, they seem to be lost in there. Either they're making silly mistakes, or I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think Ferrari is I don't know, man. It's like the consistency is just really weird with Ferrari. 1 minute they're pretty terrible at qualifying, and then all of a sudden Leclerc jumped from 6th to 3rd place within a couple of laps, and you wonder. And then he's maintaining pace, and Piastri couldn't catch him.
Right.
It was just weird how Sainz came in 5th, was able to keep ahead of Lewis and Russell. So, and once you're done with qualifying, you really can't touch the car after that. You really can't touch the car. So, I'm wondering if they were able to maintain a good pace because it was a shorter track, and then we're able to see how a more longer track like Spa benefits them, right? Because Lewis and Russell did great, and McLaren did great at Spa. It's a long track with a lot of straights, and Monza has a few of those as well. So I'll tell you what my predictions are for next week at the end, but we'll see how Ferrari fares next week. It'll tell me a lot because they're kind of like the stepchild right now. No one's really talking about Ferrari.
Yeah, no.
Other than Lewis going there, no one's really saying anything about Leclerc or the big story of Sainz and where he's going to go next. But no one's negatively or positively saying anything about Ferrari. They're just right in the middle. Yeah. And Ray's trying to say something.
Monza's a high-speed track, though, so we'll see. It's different than this one. So.
Well, Simon agreed with what I just said, what I was saying before, that we got to wait for Monza because he just brought in, maybe it had to do with the Zandvoort track, that, why things are happening, right? And that has brought into question, it for Ferrari. I could bring it into question for McLaren, right? So that's why I say when we show up at Monza, we will see what happens at that point, right?
I get what you're saying, Ray.
Yeah. Okay.
You said like 5 tracks now, 4 or 5 tracks now.
Yeah.
That the next race. So we're trying to figure out if Monza's going to be it.
Well, here's the thing, though. We know Monza is a high-speed track, but so was Spa. Right?
Yeah, but that was just one high-speed track. You come and do it in a second high-speed track, then you know it's a real thing.
Yeah. He's got an excuse for everything, Ralph. Don't
even.
Come on. We got to go back to principles, man. You have theorem, hypotheses, theorem, and then a proof, right? So, you need a 3 in a row for it to hit. But I'm going to make an exception this time. We only need it to be 2 high-speed tracks, and then I'll be on board. And I'll say even with Ferrari, I think their drivers were surprised at the performance of the car.
They were.
I'd venture to say. So it's they're the wild bunch, in the whole pudding. So we'll see what happens. So what do you think about Perez's performance today?
It's one of those things where you say, he did pretty good today, and it's just ... right? You don't really know. You don't know if it's let me give him some benefit of the doubt. Compared to his last 4 or 5 races, he was in the top 10 on this one. He was up there. He could have probably gotten the 5th or 4th, and he wasn't that far behind his teammate. There's been times when he's been 8 places, 10 places behind his teammate. This one, he actually seemed like the cars were somewhat equal in the sense of pace, right?
Right.
So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's finding his mojo.
Okay.
I don't know if he's found it. He's finding his mojo. We'll see at Monza, right? I'll keep quoting you on that. But if he has 2 good races like this, I think he'll snap out of his little slump. I think he's in a slump. That's all.
Well, I'll say this. McLaren is 30 points short of Red Bull in the constructors. If they catch or pass Red Bull, it's Checo's fault.
Okay, so let me say
this. What if Verstappen is disqualified from a race or crashes out?
Right now, being that he's a world champion, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I'm just saying, because that's part of why you have your 2 cars, you want them finishing right behind each other for maximum points. And he's been languishing for so long for the first half of the season. He hasn't really contributed to that. That's mainly Max, those points. I mean, he has some points, but he hasn't gotten the maximum points he could have gotten. And we still don't know why his performances died off. So I'm with some others that are surprised that they re-signed him.
Okay, so let me throw this out there. Could it be that mechanism that they had on the car working, he could not bring his driving style to accept it?
Maybe.
And caused him to fall off so badly.
Could be.
And, which we will see coming forward, that now that it's gone, he is more able to, we'll see if he's more able to handle the car, because it'd be interesting if that was the cause of it, and now he comes back towards the front. Right.
But
so are you saying he's a snitch and he told the FIA about
it? but Ray, I'll throw this out. If it was hindering him, what would it be for them to just remove it from his car?
That I don't know, because
I'm just saying, we're speculating.
Yeah.
We're speculating.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
it depends on how integrated it is into the system, right? So if it's more, if it's deep within the electronics of the system, it might be harder to get rid of it. And if they're seeing the benefit, again, speculation, like you said, the team has said, we gave you this driver aid. How come you can't deploy it properly and work with it? So I don't know, but good points.
Okay,
but we'll see. He showed up better today than he's done in the past. And yes, everybody was saying that if he finished below like 7th, he'd be gone, right? And because there's somebody else is waiting to come on board. So I think he got a reprieve, maybe. I don't know. I think he got a reprieve for this one. So we'll see what happens. So. I don't think they're gonna. You think they're gonna replace him next race?
Well, no, I'll say this. I don't think he got a reprieve. This is where I'll use your line you've been running all line. We'll see next race how he does, the next race, because
I'm glad you're
yeah. In this case, I think it's correct to use it, but we'll see what he does next race. But I don't know, again, we don't know why he's fallen off that much. I know that teams would try their best to help a driver, in any way they could, so they could come back to top form, because he used to be on fire, but don't know why. Just don't know why. So
it's a good segue, man. What's your guys' predictions for next race?
Do you
want to go driver then team, or do you want to go team only, or driver only?
I'll do driver.
Okay.
I'll do driver. I think, again, based on, I think it's going to be Lando. And I know that's the easy pick in a sense, but really not. I think it's going to be Lando. Max, at the post-race press conference when he was sitting there, he looked dejected for a second before. He looked shaken, like he was not happy. Like, for the driver to come out that was the top guy and say he can't get anything more out of the car, which was the car, like, I don't know. I think it's going to be Lando. And Lando looks confident. He seems calm. He seems cool. The car is working for him. I think it's going to be Lando, Max, and then Piastri.
Lando, Max, Piastri, huh? Okay. What about you, Ray?
It's going to be either Piastri. So the top two is either going to be Lando or Piastri. And the for the last spot will be either, I'm going to say Ferrari or Red Bull will be will be for the last podium step.
I have same as you, Ray. I have Lando.
No, you can't agree with me, bro. No.
I have Lando or Piastri, but I think it's going to be one of those two. And I don't think it's going to be a 1-2 finish, but I think it's one of those two. I'm leaning towards Lando based on his overall season. And then I think it's between Lewis and Russell. And I'm leaning towards Lewis to be second. It's a high-speed track, and I think Mercedes does well on high-speed tracks like they did in Spa, and they were able to win in Spa. So I have a feeling that if they get into clean air, you ain't catching them. Same thing for McLaren, though. Could be said for McLaren. I think if Red Bull does get into clean air, I think McLaren will still catch them. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. They need to sort out their car, the balance.
Yeah, and then I have Red Bull third and Ferrari fourth. So unbarring any unforeseen incidents during qualifying or penalties, I think that's the order. I think if there's any penalties or a crash or something like that, I think that's that will throw a ripple into this. But I think it's either Lando, I think it's either Russell or Lewis, and then after that, I think it's Verstappen coming in third with a possible 2-3 with Mercedes.
Okay, sounds fair.
All right, well, we will see come next time.
We'll see.
We'll see. Right, well, I guess that we're going to call it a wrap. Thanks again for tuning in and listening to our perspective of the race. And before we go, we ask that you just do a like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And also, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about our perspective on what we thought the race was about. Again, thanks for tuning in. The fellas out.
Latest.
Bye, everyone.